Well, hello everyone, this is Crystal and welcome back to my channel. So today we'll talk about an Economist article titled Dismembering the Big Tech. So in chapter 7.6, you have already learned about oligopolies, which tend to arise in an industry that has a small number of influential players. And another key characteristic of this type of market is that when one firm makes a change, they'll all make it due to fear that any differences will lose them market share and competition. So in a way, they're interdependent on each other, and firms within an oligopolistic market will be keenly aware of the action of their rival firms. So in this case, many firms will agree to collude, which means that they will form an agreement between themselves to limit competition and increase market power and increase profits. So for most of the times, there'll be a cartel being involved. That's a formal agreement between firms within an industry to limit competition, and the members will collectively behave like a monopoly. And another common practice besides collusion for the firms that want to capture economies of scale and expand growth and market power is to form a merger. That's when two or more firms join together and become one single entity. So they will no longer face direct competition and therefore gain higher profits. So even though oligopolies increase in market share, it has certain benefits such as achieving economies of scale because of firm size, leading to a lower production cost to the benefit to the whole entire society, like we have already talked about. But there can be several potential criticisms and disadvantages, like loss of consumer surplus due to higher prices, resulting in prices greater than marginal cost, and there will be welfare loss as a result, which leads to market failure and possibly less innovation in the industry. So most countries have laws that try to promote competition by preventing collusion and merger between oligopolistic firms and preventing anti-competitive behavior by a single firm that dominates a market. This is known as competitive policy. We're focused on talking about mergers as an issue in competition policy in this article analysis. So legislation usually involves limits on the size of a combined firm, but you'll see many difficulties with merger policies include questions and uncertainties about what firms should be allowed to merge related to the issue of interpreting the legislation, as well as ideological differences among different political institutions on the desired extent or level of market power. So the opening paragraph of this article is about Rockefeller's Standard Oil Company, which was an American oil producing, transporting, refining, and marketing company. But this company ended in 1911 when the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that Standard Oil Company was an illegal monopoly. So the case of Standard Oil is fairly extreme here because after a series of acquisitions by the early 1900s, Standard Oil Company actually controlled in total 91% of the whole entire production and 85% of the final sales within the industry. So even though it didn't fully reach 100% of the market power, in 1911, the U.S. Supreme Court actually declared that Standard Oil Group to be an unreasonable monopoly under the Sherman Antitrust Act. So the court argued that the company used aggressive tactics, such as raising prices in the area where it had a monopoly, and price gouging tactics in those areas where competition still existed. So the U.S. Supreme Court ordered the Standard Oil Company to break up into 34 independent companies with different boards of directors. So after this antitrust litigation, here are some companies that resulted from this breakup, as you can see from this chart. So the biggest two of the companies were Standard Oil of New Jersey, which later became Exxon, and Standard Oil of New York, which later became Mobil. But all of these 34 separate companies, which John D. Rockefeller still owned significant equity in. So in this article, it says that he owned more than 25% each, actually created enormous wealth for Rockefellers when many of these companies in this chart grew large individually later on. So the value of his equity in all the individual smaller companies increased to 3 times the value of his equity in Standard Oil before this breakup. So think about it, that is kind of crazy, right? Because the great surprise was that he actually became even wealthier than before, and Johnny Rockefeller became far richer after this breakup and when the litigation was fully implemented. So there is a major concern here because when we compare to Rockefeller's Standard Oil Company, today many major tech firms each have greater control over certain high-tech industry sectors than Standard Oil had over the whole entire oil production when it broke up. So, for instance, 95% of young adults today will use internet subscribe to a Facebook product, whether it is a company's flagship social network or other services like Instagram or WhatsApp. And Google controls 89% of the whole entire internet searches. And Google and Apple, these two duopolies, collectively hold 99% of the mobile operating software market. So Elizabeth Warren, the U.S. Senator, argued that today's big tech companies have way too much power, over the whole entire economy, and will likely to hurt small business and stifle innovation. And to deal with this problem, she proposes to break up the big tech companies. But breaking up big tech could be a boon for shareholders. So the individual components of the former parent company is likely to create more value for shareholders rather than destroying it. So it's kind of like what we see in the case of John D. Rockefeller's Standard Oil Company after the year of 1911. So spin-off is a type of divestiture when a company creates new independent branches by selling or distributing new shares of the existing business. So next time we'll look at Ms. Warren's plan in detail. I hope to see you soon.